to the program now. The chairman of the Kenya's National Anti-Corruption Campaign Steering Committee, Eliud Bukala, has called upon the government to carry out a thorough lifestyle audit on all state officials. This, he says, will help curb the rising incidents of corruption scandals in the country. The chairman expressed concern over the selective manner in which the executive is dealing with corruption and urged all bodies charged with curbing the vice to be more effective.
The fight, therefore, cannot be left to the anti-corruption agencies alone. The three arms of the government, namely the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, must play their respective roles. Specifically, the executive must conduct speedy and thorough investigations, zealously prosecute corruption cases, and recover the corruptly acquired assets. We need to ask all the bodies that are charged with the public responsibility to take their work seriously. And let us see whether the rule of law is well respected, so that everything that we do is done according to the law that we have laid up for our country. If by law any of those officers is implicated, then the law must take its course without fear or favor.
Still in matters corruption, KTN youth leaders drawn from both the ruling Jubilee coalition and the opposition CORD have asked Devolution Cabinet Secretary Anne Waiguru and all other leaders named in corruption scandals in the ministry to resign to pave way for fresh investigations. The leaders said the wave of corruption involving swindling of funds meant for the youth has rendered many young people jobless. The leaders say that they will, in the coming days, present a youth bill to Parliament through elected leaders to push for more inclusion of more youth from the funds set aside for marginalized groups.
There are 5 marginalized groups as recognized by the Constitution of Kenya. The idea that the bill is only to address 2/3 constitutional requirement is self-depreciating to the spirit and letter of Article 100. Moreover, the lack of clear legislation on affirmative action for the marginalized group is continually shortchanging the youth.
The Development Enterprise Fund, pesa zaidi ya milioni 200. Hatujaona wahusika wakipelekwa katika mahakama kujibu mashtaka. Kitu tunaona ni kurushiana maneno. Hawa nasema huyu ndiye mshukiwa, huyu ndiye mshukiwa, lakini hatuoni kitu au hatua ikichukuliwa kuhakikisha kwamba hao wanaohusika na ufisadi wamepelekwa kotini na wamejibu au wameambiwa kurejesha hizo fedha ambazo wameiba.
Well, to just dig more into this particular story, we want to cross over to our city center where Gideon Kotel, the youth leader from URP, is on standby to just tell us more about this particular bill and stand in regards to Devolution Cabinet Secretary Anne Waiguru. Now, Gideon, last week or 2 weeks ago, it emerged that about 200 million shillings from the National Enterprise Fund actually disappeared. As a youth leader, what does this make you feel? Last week it emerged that about 200 million shillings from the Youth Enterprise Fund actually disappeared. As a youth leader, how does it make you feel?
We are actually, as young people, we are so disappointed, because if you look at our position as young people in this country, the little funds that we've been given for development, the main purpose of the fund was actually, the main aim was to help young entrepreneurs who have been suffering from the challenges of unemployment. So if we look at these people who are actually embezzling the money that is set aside for the young people, we see that we are being deprived of our rights, or we are being deprived of a chance for us to grow. And that reflects the extent of corruption in this country. It is systematic way of corruption which start from the high level to the lowest level, and it has been trickled down to entire country, from counties and the national level. So we feel as a common people, or common man, that we are being denied a chance to develop as young people in this country. We feel that someone is robbing our future.
Just to ask you, Gideon, do you support Alfred Keter's motion of impeachment against Devolution Cabinet Secretary Anne Waiguru, and does this represent what also other youths from the URP party feel?
The impeachment of Waiguru's motion is it also affects us, and we support that motion, and all what we require is if one Waiguru could step aside, because it's evidence that there is some allegation. It is evident in the eyes of the public that there is some money that has been lost, and for her to be accountable, she has to step aside. And I will also we really support that, because Anne Waiguru sits at a position whereby, as young people, we look up to her in terms of support. Youth are under Ministry of Devolution, and when we look at this thing, we really ask ourselves several questions like why is it only the money for the young people that everyone is targeting? Why is it that no one is accountable for these finances when such things happen? And then the motion for impeachment, or her asking her to step aside, is not a new thing. Even other ministers and other cabinet secretaries have stepped aside. She's not special from the rest, and if she's not guilty, she will come back to office.
Well, Gideon, have you raised some of these sentiments with the Deputy President William Ruto, and what does he have to say?
The sentiment about Anne Waiguru, or the sentiments about the corruption cases?
About Anne Waiguru and corruption as a whole.
Yes, I've read, and the Deputy President commented clearly that if anyone is found guilty after the investigation, actually I think the investigation that was tabled, that brought a lot of confusion. So when it comes to sentiment of the Deputy President regarding corruption cases, I think it's very clear that we are fighting, as a government is championing fight against corruption.
Before I let you go, just maybe briefly tell us about this youth bill that you hope to present before Parliament. What is in it?
We are really appalled by the state at which legislation is conducted in Parliament, because every policy that is being proposed, or every amendment that is being proposed in Parliament, like if you look at the bill of Honorable Ndwale, it doesn't speak about young people. They only focus on women. We ask about women to be given funds during campaign. What about young people? What about the youth? What about people with disabilities? What about the marginalized groups? Why are we being sidelined or being kind of like discriminated from these processes? Also, we feel so bad because we see there are so many young MPs in Parliament. More than 50. There are 50 MPs in Parliament who are youthful, and they are not raising this question. So it is a concern to us as young people. Where is our space? Who will defend us in terms of policies and other related policies in Parliament?
Thank you very much, Gideon Keter, the chairman of the National Youth at the URP party, just weighing in on the sentiments in regards to Devolution Cabinet Secretary Anne Waiguru, and also the position in which the youth are in the country, because they feel like they have been neglected by their government, where also we've seen youth funds being swindled, and this, they say, is affecting them as the youth in the country. Now let's move to other stories. And even as the Kenyan government and the Kenyan Defence Forces dismiss allegations that KDF was involved in charcoal and sugar smuggling from Somalia to Kismayo port, the U.S. government has called for thorough investigations into the matter. The U.S. ambassador to Kenya, Robert Godek, says the matter hinges on credibility of the forces fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia and should be handled with a lot of care.
With the stench of corruption choking the nation, the envoys from European nations moved to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to register the administration's concern over the high level of graft in President Uhuru Kenyatta's government. Describing the scourge as a crisis undermining the future of the country, the ambassadors have warned of travel restrictions to top government officials implicated in graft.
We are prepared to take further steps to support the Kenyan authorities, including, when permitted by law, the return of stolen assets to the Kenyan people, or to impose travel restrictions on those responsible for graft.
The envoys were specifically outraged by runaway graft and somewhat inaction to punish the vice. They challenged the institutions responsible to act swiftly without sparing any sacred cows in their own graft.
We agreed that all allegations of corruption must be investigated. When evidence of corruption is found, those responsible must be prosecuted and, if guilty, appropriately punished, regardless of position or wealth.
Our efforts will not be spared in fighting corruption. We are not sleeping. We are not relaxing our energy at all as far as fighting the vice is concerned.
In 2007, the UK banned David Miraria, the then Environment Minister in the Kibaki administration, from visiting the country over corruption allegations. The UK cancelled his travel visa and instructed all its airliners not to carry Miraria to the UK. In 2005, former Security Minister Chris Murungaru was subjected to similar restrictions.
We do have in place a presidential proclamation with regards to corruption, which does make possible in circumstances that are very clearly spelled out that we do not issue visas if individuals are involved in graft or corruption.
We have long had a policy where those who are implicated in graft are not permitted to travel. That's in accordance with our immigration rules cleared by the Home Secretary. There is a list of people. It's long been in place. It will continue to be in place. Those people know who they are. I'm not going to tell you because of UK data protection.
We shall not, and we will not spare any effort, and we will not be cowed by any threat, any intimidation, and any weakness that we find in the process of our activities. We shall stand firm.
In Parliament, the opposition was blasting Interior Cabinet Secretary for claiming the corruption crusade and criticism was aimed at sparking discontent, economic sabotage and general insecurity in the country.
Kenyans are currently being treated to a well-programmed campaign whose objective is to cause dissatisfaction among Kenyans with the intention of igniting mass action against the government.
Weak regimes world over, when they see that they have reached the brink, they start pressing every panic button in sight to try and see invisible enemies, channel out propaganda, label people, and eventually start arresting people.
Samugina, KTN News.
We do apologize for that. That was Godek and other ambassadors warning on corrupt officials. They have said that they will actually issue travel bans on corrupt officials. They were speaking while they visited the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the body tasked with fighting corruption in the country. It was not Godek on KDF smuggling as we had earlier indicated. Apologies on that. Now, moving to other stories, police in Migori County have crossed the border into Tanzania in pursuit of 3 robbers who shot and robbed 3 businessmen in Mabera town. The 3, a woman and 2 men, are believed to have escaped Tanzania after the robbery. And as Rashid Ronald reports, this is the latest case of robbery in a region where insecurity has become the order of the day in the recent past.
Joseph Maina, a businessman from Nairobi, nursing a gunshot wound at Migori's Level 4 hospital. He was shot together with his 2 other colleagues at Mabera town in Kuria West. The other 2 are admitted at a separate hospital here in Migori County. The 3 traders have been buying livestock in Mabera and transporting them to Nairobi.
Kuingia kwa mnanda to 6:30 before 6:30 na vibanda ambazo sisi hutumia kupata chai kwa sababu vile kulikuwa baridi. Sasa lazima tuone tupate nini. Kitu 6:30 ndio kabla hata hatujasafiwa na huyu waiter alikuwa ndio tulisikia mlipuko umetoka kando tu na sisi. Kuangalia na hii tukasikia rafiki yetu mmoja akitoa sauti.
Top police officers in Migori County convened an emergency meeting following the incident. They are not ruling out a setup as they ponder on how to end insecurity in this region.
There are some 3 robbers, two men and a lady, who alighted in a pikipiki, in a motorbike with Tanzanian registration number plates. We are not saying it belongs to Tanzania, but we are saying with Tanzanian registration number plates. Came specifically and did some injure some people.
Several kilometers from here, we also meet Zakaria Muita at his center village home. He too is nursing a gunshot wound thanks to another robbery on Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
Risasi imekuwa kila sehemu, ni risasi tu. Wananchi wamemiliki silaha nzuri ya serikali. Sasa kama hakuna lolote, hata viongozi ambao tunawapa uongozi hawana njia ya kutusaidia. Wananchi tuchukue madaraka ambao tutaweza kuchukua sisi wenyewe.
In fact, angry villagers have convened a meeting near his home over insecurity in this area.
Ningependa kutoa wito wa dhati kabisa kwamba vyombo vyetu vya usalama vishirikiane na vyombo vya Tanzania, hasa lile jeshi ambalo lilitengwa kushughulikia wizi upande wa Tarimba linalojulikana kama kanda maalum, washirikiane kwa dhati, washirikiane kwa ukaribu kabisa ili waweze kuangamiza uovu wa majambazi ambao sasa hivi unataka kusambaratisha maendeleo katika eneo letu la Kuria.
A day prior, another gang had attacked this home at Nyamuchiro, also in Kuria East.
Nilisikia kelele hapo kwa mlango yangu. Kwenda kuangalia nikakuta watu wamejihami na bunduki, mapanga, wanagonga mlango wangu.
Last week, the regional police commander gave an ultimatum of 2 weeks for police to end crime in this region. But if what has transpired within 1 week is anything to go by, then we have a long way to go. Rashid Ronan, KTN News, Migori County.
Now, tension is high at Lusuk village in Samburu County when 10 armed bandits invaded grazing livestock. The armed bandits fled away with 21 herds of livestock towards Baringo County. The incident occurred barely 4 days when bandits shot and killed one person around the same area. Lusuk Senior Chief Philip Lord Reynolds says that they are working closely with Pokot peace leaders pursuing the bandits. He added that they were not after the tribe but the bandits. The resident said that they wouldn't retaliate but urged the Pokot peace leaders and the youth to return back their livestock.
Wajambazi 10 kutoka upande wa Baringo alikuja akatagi ya ng'ombe. Kijana alikuwa anakatia ng'ombe mtao juu ya miti, akaambia shuka tuva panga, lakini bahati hakupiga risasi na wajambazi walikuwa na risasi. Kwa hivyo bahati nzuri tu hakupiga yeye, kijana alishuka na kutoroka na kukimbia, ng'ombe akapelekwa.
Ya kora nafikiri tukipata habari ni kama wakora walitoka upande, walienda kuiba ng'ombe ya ranch kami, wakapukuswa na waliua mtu mmoja, na pia nafikiri ndio hao walikuja kusanya watu wengine hapa kidogo, wakora wenzao wakakuja wakaiba hiyo ng'ombe jana jioni saa 12.
In Kenya's Kakamega County, a middle-aged man was buried alive while his co-worker was pulled out of a manhole unconscious. This is after walls collapsed and caved in on them. The two were among other casual workers digging a sewer near Kakamega Kisumu Road. Police, residents and medics arrived at the scene to help rescue the two who were wailing as the sewer swallowed them. They managed to rescue one. He was rushed to Kakamega County General Hospital. The body of the deceased was later retrieved. Kennedy Otieno, one of the workers who witnessed the incident, said they were finalizing on the previous day's work when they were buried by the soil.
Nikichimba mtaro hapo mbele, hao wenzangu wamekuwa nyuma yangu huko. Sasa walikuwa wanamalizia kupumua jana. Hivi kidogo tu nimeingia kwa mtaro kidogo tu. Wenzangu kaniita, kuja mbio na jembe na kijiko. Kuja mbio kauliza nini mbaya, ati mchango umefunika watu. Sasa mimi kukimbia hata mmoja ameshaenda tayari, mwingine nimejaribu kuokoa.
Hapa Kakamega tuko na shida ambapo kitendo inaweza tokea kama hii, na kuanzia 1 hour imepita kitendo yote haijafanyika. Ndio tumepata msaada kutoka mbali. Tunaomba watu wa Kakamega watusaidie. Ni njia tu wanajaribu kutafuta maisha. Sasa kama shughuli kama hizi zitakuwa zinaendelea kila wakati, tutakuwa tunapoteza vijana tu kwa sababu ni ya shughuli ya kushughulika hapa na pale. Yeah, we are really disappointed in our account and the people who are conducting this exercise.
We came this morning having gotten information that we have our own who have been buried after, what you saw, and we've managed to save one, and we've lost one. So sadly, we've lost one, but we appreciate what has been going on in terms of public cooperation and the response team that came in.
Well, time now for a short commercial break, but when we come back, we'll tell you some good news from the tourism industry with the docking of the luxury ship at the port of Mombasa with about 1,000 tourists. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program. This is Newsdesk. Our Twitter handle is news at KTN News. My Twitter handle is at @EN_Fuladula. Let us know what is happening around you. And we also appreciate your feedback. Now, even as the Kenyan government and the Kenyan Defense Forces dismiss allegations that KDF was involved in charcoal and sugar smuggling from Somalia's Kismayo port, the U.S. government has called for thorough investigations into the matter. The U.S. ambassador to Kenya, Robert Godek, says the matter hinges on the credibility of the forces fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia and should be handled with a lot of care.
Anything with respect to KDF, any allegations, those are the responsibility of the Kenyan authorities, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, executives in the government leaders, KDF itself. Those are the responsible authorities for investigating such allegations and making a determination about whether or not there's any merit to them. I would simply urge the government to conduct those investigations as I urge them to conduct investigations into all such reports and to reach a conclusion rapidly and to ensure if there are in fact facts, if there is evidence that something is happening, obviously those individuals should be appropriately prosecuted or otherwise punished.
So far, we don't have any official report. I've only heard from the BBC reporting this morning. Otherwise, if any material of credible source comes to us, we'll take it up.
Let's go to the coastal region of Kenya now. The luxury cruise ship Miss Nautica has today made a stopover in Mombasa en route to Zanzibar with over 1,000 tourists on board. The ship was welcomed by, among others, Kenyan Tourism Board Managing Director Ndego Muridi. The arriving is deemed as a major boost in the industry following months of negative travel advisories by some European nations. Francis Antomo witnessed the colorful event.
The arrival of the luxurious MS Nautica at the port of Mombasa was greeted with great enchantment. The state-of-the-art ship knocked the port carrying 684 tourists from the European countries and some 386 crew members. Traditional dancers were waiting with scintillating performances and gifts during the stopover. For observers, this is a shot in the arm for the reviving tourism industry and an indicator of things looking up bright.
cruise tourism is very important to Kenya as a destination. Reason being, much as the ship is coming in and making the call for today only, many of the tourists disembarking will enjoy the activities and the services that Mombasa has to offer.
Cruise ship tourism has over the recent years experienced strong international growth, with its diversifying products creating and developing new market niches.
We do believe that with this kind of ship coming in, clearly we are pumping money into the local economy, because many of the people coming in this kind of cruise ship, they are people who are well-to-do, and therefore obviously they're going to be spending money in terms of the excursions they're going to be making, and also buying mementos from the local communities.
Since the removal of travel advisories by some European countries this year, effects of the stride are starting to be realized, with industry players projecting an even more promising year as tourists flock the country.
Wonderful. The music, it sets the mood, so it's very exciting. We're happy to be here.
Great people. Many great Kenyans come to Boston also. Kenyan runners win the marathon every year, right?
Sea piracy has never been singled out as one of the biggest challenges for cruise ship tourism. And just recently, Mombasa welcomed Turkish-led CTF 151 flagship Navy ship that conducted a counter-piracy patrol. The idea behind the concept being to promote stability, security, and prosperity across approximately 2.5 million square miles of international waters.
There is an urgent need to continue the efforts at the sea to combat piracy, but of course military solutions alone are not sufficient. The root causes of the piracy should be addressed with an equal determination by the international community.
The voyage, which began in Seychelles, is expected to continue tonight to final destination in Zanzibar, Tanzania.
For an industry that has been facing turbulent times, today's arrival of the nautical industry players say is a strong reaffirmation that things will get better. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
Let's get into sports now. The Cabo maintained their perfect start to the South America's World Cup qualifiers with a 2-1 victory over Uruguay on Thursday. Goals from Felipe and Fidel extended the Cabos' 100% record in their qualifying campaign. In another match, Chile managed a 1-1 draw against Colombia, but the much anticipated World Cup qualifier between old rivals Argentina and Brazil had to be postponed due to heavy rains in Buenos Aires, and it will be played on Saturday.
To the Kenyan people, or to impose travel restrictions on those responsible.
Well, we shall have that story. That is where we mark an end for viewers on KTN Home. But Newsdesk continues right after the break on our second channel, KTN News. My name is Yana Fuller. Stay tuned.
Corruption must be investigated.
This is KTN. Welcome home.